$3 billion in funding for Harvard because they ain't playing ball and dropping their DEI nonsense. Harvard says, no. This is a political stunt, and we're not going to let you dictate what we can or cannot do and say and teach at our university. But here's where it gets interesting, my friends.
The clip ends. So Trump is freezing their money, which, in my opinion, by the way, is a great thing.
The Trump administration tonight firing back at Harvard University after the school basically set up a showdown with the Trump administration, rejecting some of the White House's demands on its policies. A White House spokesperson saying, in part, President Trump wants to end unchecked anti-Semitism and that Harvard's response could put its federal funding at risk. But Harvard's president says the university will not surrender its independence and that neither Harvard nor any other private university can allow itself to be taken over by the federal government.
Yeah, you can. There are a lot of laws that you have to follow at Harvard because Harvard is in the United States. You don't make the rules. The government makes the rules and you follow the rules, and you can maybe do a few things yourself. This isn't like the Vatican. You're not the Vatican. How do you think this?
The Trump administration had something like 10 demands for Harvard, including the elimination of DEI programs and the restriction
Implement merit-based admissions and hiring practices. Now, this is what I think Donald should do. If they will not completely go down on this and, like, completely do this, I think he should come at them with the entire justice system and sue them massively for civil rights violations. Absolutely fucking crucify them. It's outrageous. Fuck them, yeah. This is make an example out of them. Exactly, yeah. And also, the thing is that at the end of the day, it's racism. It is. It's a private school. What? It doesn't matter. If you're a private school and you're exercising racist admissions, and you're doing this inside, like all private schools are still open to the public. They're receiving funding. It's like a business, for example. So a business can't just tell people that, oh, there's no black people allowed in this business. That's not the way that it works. We've decided, and by the way, it took Bernie Sanders was there. They can though. No, they can't. They can't. That's literally that. We had a whole fucking problem with this. A lot of us weren't even alive then, right? I wasn't even alive then. This whole thing, this is all done. Like this has been settled for fucking years. How are we still getting into this?
Acceptance of international students who are, and I'm quoting here, hostile to American values and institutions. Stephanie Gosk is joining us now. You couldn't think of a...
I think that I can push back a little bit on the hostile to American values thing. I don't think that Harvard needs to be required to operate as an arm of the Homeland Security branch of the government. I think that's unreasonable. Personally.
You couldn't think of a perhaps bigger name in the world of college universities to go basically head to head with the Trump administration on some of these controversial changes that the White House wants. What happens next here?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Hallie. First of all, it's worth pointing out that Harvard receives $9 billion worth of federal funding from the government. And so that's...
It's such a weird hill to die on. If it's not based on income, DEI is literally not required to anything. I am a huge supporter of DEI based on income. And I actually think that they should get rid of legacy applications as well. Because I think that legacy applications are fundamentally, pretty much the same thing. I think those are awful. And I think any organization that does any DEI admissions or any legacy applications, I think they should lose all funding, period. It's disgusting. Yeah, just period. Like, I don't want a single dollar of my tax money going to them. I don't want to fund because also keep in mind, legacy applications, let's be real, guys. 60, 70 years ago, black and white people didn't have the same opportunities to get into these schools. Just straight up. They didn't. We all know that. So legacy, it's almost like you're trying to like grandfather in some sort of racial preferences. It's fucking nepotism. Yeah. Fuck that, man. So a legacy, some people don't know this. A legacy application is when a person is granted preferential treatment inside of a university because a family member went to the university. So it's like your dad went to this university. Okay, your chances of you getting in are higher now. But the problem is, if your dad and your grandfather got into it, well, they got into it in a world where we did have racial discrimination. It was real. And again, that's the kind of stuff that makes people racist. And also it makes them right, because it is fucked up. It's classism. It is. And also keep in mind, guys, it's very important to keep this in mind. Almost all race issues can be solved by addressing class issues. Not all, but almost all. I'm a huge supporter of DEI for income, just not for race.
That's a real hammer that the government has, and can hold that above Harvard University, try to get them to make some of these changes. This letter that Harvard received on Friday night is really long, and it has a lot of very specific things that they are calling on the university to do to get this funding. Among them are things like hiring an independent third party to determine whether there's anti-Semitism on campus and in the curriculum. Also to make sure that there's diversity of opinion on campus. And you've heard a bunch of White House officials, including the vice president himself, talking about.
It's always hard for me to talk about this stuff because, like, I actually kind of disagree with a little bit of this. Like, especially with, like, enforcing diversity of opinion. Like, because I feel like enforcing diversity of opinion is compelled speech indirectly. Is that crazy for me to say? I think that's overreach. So, like, I'm half on this. I'm half off of it. Am I crazy for saying that? I'm half in, half off?
How there is a throughout our universities a kind of sickness where there is no diversity of opinion, and this is clearly part of an effort.
I mean, the people have been saying this for as long as I've been alive, and I do think that part of this is institutionalized.
To change the way universities operate, and they're holding this funding, which is really how research is done at universities, in large part because of this funding. They are holding that over the heads of schools and universities around the country.
Harvard is a wealthy school. They just are, right? How much of an impact is this going to have on them? Let's say they were to use that federal funding. To your point, Steph, in the world of carrots and sticks, I mean, that's a big one. How much of an impact could this actually have?
Well, really big. I mean, $9 billion is a lot of money. The school very clearly relies on it. And yes, they are an incredibly wealthy school. But if that is removed, that will change how research is done on campus.
Absolutely.
But interestingly, Harvard taking a stand in a very public way, and not just about itself, also saying that universities and schools around the country should follow their lead. They are calling this a violation of their First Amendment rights. Hallie.
It's not your First Amendment right to racially discriminate in hiring people. This is ridiculous. It's insane.
What? How can somebody even say this?
It's unreal. You're at it being overreach, but that's what happens when there's already so much rot corroding the system. Yeah, I understand that too. And they should ban them from operating until they change. I don't think he can do that, but if he could, I would support him doing that. I think that you need to take as brutal and as aggressive as of a stance as possible against these racially based systems, and I would support going after them to the full extent of the law. Please clarify, you want Marxist income policy instead of merit income, really? I think that it's very easily quantifiable that people with less money have less access to education and less access to quality education. And so in the interest of creating an equitable society where every person has the opportunity that I think they deserve, I think it's best to make sure that you have some degree of equalization force so you can account for that difference. I don't think that's like saying Social Security, and also like I'm not totally against socialism. Like I agree with socialism in a lot of things. Like basically my mindset is I'm a socialist in a lot of ways, but I just don't want it to go into fucking illegals. I don't want it to go into other countries. Like I want to go into the people here. That's what matters to me. The mass killings. I'm not a big fan of the mass killings. Not a big fan of that. And also, by the way, you're a national socialist? Well, I wouldn't really use that word. I think that word's really, the history of that's really not so good, is it? But the point is that that was you could probably get other people with that, but not me. So yeah. Anyway, there's a reason why socialism doesn't work in a single place. It's implemented in any capacity. Well, so like. Do people view like systems like food stamps, for example, or Social Security as socialism? Because like I kind of view them as that. I do. I view them as like fundamentally like kind of like socialist policies. So I think that really the best, like this is my personal opinion. I think that the best system is a 60-40 capitalism socialism system, somewhere around there. That's how I see it. If you want to say 70-30, 50-50, I'm not going to argue with you about that. But I think that it's a mix of both, and both of them are very important. So Scandinavia? Yeah, I really think I think they do a good job with a lot of things. I do. So yeah, you don't need to use socialism to get social stuff done. I think that you do. I don't think you can rely on the, like let's say churches to do it. I understand, like I think that's wishful thinking personally. But yeah, anyway, that's the way I see it, and that's where I'm at. But anyway, I'll watch one more about this and see if there's any more information about this. But yeah, a $2 billion funding freeze. I think Trump needs to take these people all the way. Do it all the way, because like this kind of stuff, like the thing is that Trump probably, like, I mean, it's funny that he'll be president for 12 years, right? But like, it's probably not going to happen. He needs to just absolutely kill this stuff. Like, just absolutely brutally remove it, root and stem, scorched earth, completely annihilate it. And if he has to do that, I think the way you do that is you do it by acting extremely fast. And so I don't want to have him going back and forth with Harvard about this for a year. They need money, though? Well, then they better come to the table. That's how I see it. The problem is the universities have a lot in R&D and government contracts. Well, then they should come to the table. And if they don't, like the thing is that I don't think that there is no justification, in my opinion, to allow people who, and also, by the way, how do you think all of the researchers feel that their funding is getting frozen and cut because the administrators want to adhere to some kind of like racist policy? I bet they're probably furious about that. They don't want to have anything to do with that. That's not fair to them. So if you cut the funding, they'll start fighting each other. Why are tuition costs so high if they need all this federal funding? That's a great question.
So let's talk about Ivy League colleges. And we know that the anti-Semitism raging on some of the most elite institutions in our country has to be addressed. And as soon as Barnard got raided a couple of months ago by anti-Semitic activists from Colombia, they knew the president, this was his first opportunity to address it. So he took $400 million from them. And he said, do these 5 things or 8 things if you want to get it back. And they're still in discussions. When it came to Harvard and the threats against Harvard to straighten out their curriculum, to straighten out the anti-Semitism on their campuses, to start complying with some regulations that the administration put out, Harvard pushed back and they said, we will not. And the president answered back last night by saying, if you will not, we're taking $2.5 billion from your grant system.
Thank God. That's right. Yep.
So there's this task force that is trying to get that money. Harvard, essentially, they've come back and they've said, you know what? What the administration is asking us to do is...
As a researcher at Harvard, I can say many non-professors are extremely angry that they're losing funding tenured facility don't seem to care since it won't be affected. Hard to say whether this guy's really like that or not, but I bet that's probably accurate. I mean, it would logically make sense that the people that would be affected would be the most angry. Sure.
Unconstitutional. It also flies in the face of our First Amendment rights. The president of Harvard, a fellow by the name of Alan Garber, sent a letter to the community to explain it. He said, although some of the demands outlined by the government are aimed at combating anti-Semitism, the majority represent direct governmental regulation of the intellectual conditions at Harvard. We have informed the administration through our legal counsel that we will not accept their proposed agreement. The university will not negotiate over its independence or its constitutional rights. So they've been hit with this $2.2 billion federal freeze. But here's the thing. I would imagine this is a battle that Harvard's going to fight, because while that's $2 billion, they've got an endowment at Harvard of $53 billion. So they've got a pile of dough they could rely on if they're going to fight this.
So the president's freezing $2.2 billion on grants, $60 million in contracts. President Obama applauded this because it's his alma mater, but Elise Stefanik also graduated from Harvard, and she was on Sean's show last night sounding off about it. But here's my question, Lawrence. Why should police officers, why should teachers, why should bricklayers and our blue-collar workers and the people in Detroit making our cars, why should they have to pay for schools that will continue and allow anti-Semitism on their campus? Because
I think that's the minor thing. Like, in my opinion, if somebody's a racist, stupid asshole, that's just a racist, stupid asshole. But the big problem is whenever the racist, stupid assholes are in charge of the system. That's whenever you've got a big, big issue. And this is what's happening, is that those racist, stupid assholes are running the system.
that's what happens. These are tax dollars. Harvard does have this huge endowment, and let
it's unironically systematic racism. Exactly.
That money go to community colleges. Let it go to Mike Rowe, who's starting trade schools. Allow that money to go toward individuals who are working hard in America and never would have gotten into Harvard or can't afford Harvard.
Yeah.
You're exactly right, Ainsley. They are not only anti-Semitic, but they allow people in on these visas that essentially hate the country. They want to redo what America is. And they have been very vocal about the people that have been deported by the president as a result of them violating their visa. The second thing is they don't want cops on their campus as well. A lot of these campuses shun law enforcement, don't want.
Yeah, this is another example. Like, this isn't even, like, in my opinion, this is like one of those things where it's not even a conversation. Like, you don't get to tell the police where they get to go. That's literally it. Like, there's no debate on this. Yeah, unless it's your house. Even in your house, if they have a warrant to search your house, no, you don't.
Want them there and feel like they're an enemy to the American people, which we know is untrue. Let's talk with some of the diners right now and see what they're. Go ahead.
One of the lawyers fighting for Harvard is Robert Hur. Famously did the Hur report on Biden, and the other one's a conservative too, so they think they have an advantage there. I would say this. They're going to have to evaluate. They're going to have everything under scrutiny. Why they're taking so many international students. What countries are contributing to their institution. What is in their curriculum. They're going to have to expose it all.
That's also another big question is, like, why is it that this university is bringing in a large amount of international students and the American taxpayers are funding it? Because, like, in my mind, like, as a taxpayer, I would want American universities that are bringing in, that are, like, getting my money. I would want them to be working in my best interest as an American. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, and I'm not saying zero, right? But I think that the percentage or the amount is definitely up for debate. It's another form of DEI. Yeah, but it's not DEI. Because taxpayers are paying for something. if you're taking a person's money, you need to give them something back for that money that's equitable for them. So when your money is being allocated to something, you have a right to say how that money will be allocated.
Administration is just amping it up. Princeton's also fighting. Columbia's capitulating as of now. Maybe when they get a permanent president, they might change. But go ahead, Lawrence.
Yeah, you're exactly right, though, Brian. Let's go find some folks to talk to. Hey, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man.
So Harvard, they're not going to comply with the administration. They said get rid of the anti-Semitism. The people that hate our country, that want visas, we're going to start revoking those visas.
I wonder what he thinks. I wonder what he thinks. Yeah. You say that, but it goes directly against the initiative to bring overseas talent to the U.S. to the tech industry, which you and the current administration agreed with. I think that bringing over talent is important, but doing it to a degree that it disenfranchises and it prevents American students from getting positions to a large degree, I think it becomes counterproductive. And I also dislike the premise that there is not an American equivalent to, like, is it possible that all of these people in these other countries, there are no American citizens that could potentially even theoretically do the same thing? I think that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to assume that, like, oh, wow, these people in these other countries are that much smarter and that much better whenever we have American citizens that can't do that. Like, it's outrageous.
Jesus. Harvard, as a result, have said, well, we don't want the money then. We're not going to negotiate with the administration. Where do you stand on it?
I stand 100% behind Donald Trump's decision to not fund them. People that work against this country are totally wrong. The woke need to wake up, okay, and get on the right side of what's going on. 1 minute they're saying one thing, next minute they're saying the other thing. They're doing a lot of flip-flopping.
People say they are smarter. So it's important to keep in mind that I'm not talking about, like, average citizens, average students versus average students. I'm talking about, like, top 0.1% students versus top 0.1% students. You're going to see a much less discrepancy there. Like, if you want to talk about, like, the average U.S. student versus, like, the average student in Sweden, yeah, probably, definitely.
And I'm totally against it. You know, this is our country.
Yeah, we have plenty
need to
of
stand
smart
up for
kids
this
here.
country. I was a 9/11 first responder. I love our cops. I love our military. And people need to do the right thing by us first, and that's it.
What about you? A lot of people agree with you too, sir. He's talking about 9/11, and you see these people protesting in the middle of the street. Some of them are not even American citizens. They want to overthrow a lot of the government. Some of them have been extremely anti-Semitic. Is the president making the right move here?
I love him. I think he's doing a great thing. I'm behind him 1,000%. The man doesn't really make too many mistakes when he talks. He was right about most things, and I'm for him 100%.
Thank you so much. It's been a great time here with a lot of these folks right here. They've been talking about some of the issues that matter to the country so much, and this is one of them. We got to protect our country, and it starts with these children that are on these college campuses.
Hey,
guys.
Lawrence, look over your right shoulder. That's the town supervisor, Joe Saladino. Right there with that gray suit on. Tell him to wave.
Where's Joe? Yeah, that's Joe.
There he is. This is the guy in charge.
He said he grew up with you.
Right. But he's I think he's a Chaminade guy, though.
Spill the tea on Brian.
So Joe has been, he's been giving me all the dirt on Brian.
Oh, good.
And I prepared a dossier, and at some point I will release it on Fox and Friends.
And
but
you remember
I'm not prepared to do it this morning.
Is it a dirty dossier?
Best player Massapequa's ever had. Great athlete, great guy, amazing family. Brian is the real deal.
All right, Tony.
How much did you
nice
pay
guy.
him?
But he also tried to get Teddy Roosevelt's statue when they tried to get rid of it.
I
He was
remember.
going to bring it to Long Island.
That too.
All right.
All right,
Well,
thanks, guys.
All right, we'll check with you again. Thanks, Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be real. Like the average people, like if you tell them that this shit is happening, average people are gonna be out of their fucking mind. And that's what I think really needs to be kept in mind with this, is that, like, a lot of these positions and this type of argumentation is so deeply and profoundly unpopular that it's actually shocking that anybody thinks that it's not. It's extremely unpopular. People don't want to fund universities that are just bringing in a bunch of foreign students, and then the local students that they are bringing in, they're doing it based off of like racial quotas. Really, it's insane. And also, like, again, don't American taxpayers have the right to decide where their money is going? I think they do. And so, like, how is it in the best interest of American taxpayers that, like, a huge amount of the percentage of this population for, like, a school, if somebody says, like, 1 in 5 students are foreign students, like, do we really need to do that? I think that we don't. And so, yeah, wait, do international students pay more in America? Yeah, they do, and that's probably why they get admitted. It's probably, and that's the thing, is it's probably not some kind of, like, grand idea of, like, them trying to, like, you know, racially replace people or something like that. No, it's probably them just wanting to get more money. That's it. Trump make a true social post. After they responded, they wouldn't listen. All right, yeah, I'll look at it and see what it is. Let's see what he said. Perhaps Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status and be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and terrorist-inspired supporting sickness. Remember, tax-exempt status is totally contingent on it acting in the public interest. Boys? Oh boy, I love it. I love to hear it. I love it. Absolutely. Like churches? Yeah, I mean, if a church is doing this, I would feel the same way. Absolutely. And yeah, good luck to the U.S. Yeah, we're so back. No, and the only thing is that I want him to work faster and do it faster. I don't want him to tweet about this. I want him to say that there's already an executive order that's signed and your tax-exempt status was gone 2 hours ago. Like, that's the only thing, right? It's because, like, he's got 4 years to do this stuff. You've got to speed run it. I got denied from a lesser school in my home state with a state payment, but I got accepted to an out-of-state school that was better that I had to pay more for. Yeah, I mean, again, it's always like, and that's the funny thing, is it's not even about like some grand ideology. It's just about figuring out a way to get people to pay you more money. It's just ridiculous. We went from student loan forgiveness to kneecapping universities. Love to see it. Well, has it ever occurred to you that maybe you need the student loan forgiveness because the universities are misusing the funds? Has it ever occurred to you that maybe these, like, you know, astronomically high rising, you know, prices of tuition are created by the universities? Like, who decided that the university costs had to 20x in the last 10 years, or not 10 years, in the last 30 or 40 years? It's outrageous. So, yes, absolutely. And like, this is the same as, like, it's always like the most, like, low IQ comparison of, like, two things that are, like, vaguely related, and then saying, like, oh, but you want this, but you want the other thing too. It's like, no, nobody's going to listen to that. It's bullshit. Who decided you need a university degree? Well, a lot of companies did, but I agree with you that that's a problem too. I definitely do. He could really just tell the public that someone has to forge a signature for it and go faster, and Americans wouldn't care as long as it gets done faster. Well, I don't know about that. I feel like he can sign it himself. It's fucking stupid. Aren't the Republicans pro-freedom and they want to dictate how the university runs itself? Yeah. Well, let me just understand this. Like, so, do you think the university should exercise racial disparities and should enforce racial disparities in its what do you call it? In like its admissions? Do you think they should do that? And also, like, here's the problem. These universities enjoy a tremendous amount of privileges. Like, for example, being tax exempt. That's a huge privilege. Receiving federal funding. I don't know, but like, if I would consider, if they were giving me $1 billion a year, I'd consider myself pretty fucking privileged. So how is it that when we're giving them billions of dollars and we're not requiring them to pay taxes, that we're not entitled to any degree of oversight of what they're doing? How is that equitable or fair? There are literally black-owned universities still in existence. Do you know why? HBCUs, historically black colleges, are not black only. They're not. There are white people and other people that are not that color that go to those schools. No, absolutely not. But Trump seems to use his power to dictate what a university should do and not. Don't you support freedom in academia? No. Why should I support the academic freedom of them to racially discriminate? Yeah. No. Like, it's super simple. No. I don't give a shit about, like, the thing is, like, to me, you're not going to be able to, like, reframe something that sounds bad and then, like, oh, I'm not going to say it, right? I'll just say it straight out. No, I don't support it at all. Small business owner here, if I get a loan for my business, specific loans, I must detail what I use it for, even if I'm paying it back, and it's a non-starter, if it's a grant, they dictate what I spend it on. Yeah, I know. Let me see if this guy has any other thing to say. Academic freedom can be interpreted to include the right to the university to determine their own hiring standards. Okay, sure, that sounds great. Well, then we're going to determine our own funding standards. Sounds good to me. Yeah, you wanna go and do that? That sounds fine. But yeah,